Hi Virgo, this is Leah at Astrology. We're taking a sneak peek at 2019. So this is not the full forecast, but I like to always orient people toward the long term. What's happening long term, because it's healthier for the mind, I find, and it's less stressful. I think if we get on a little hamster wheel of wondering what's happening next week, what's happening tomorrow, what's happening today, we can jump out of being in the present moment, and we're disempowering ourselves when we do that. So I like to try to get people looking, with my coaching, I try to get people to get into their bodies now and be aware of the present moment, because that feels so good and empowering. And then if we do look at astrology, to be aware and cognizant and set our expectations for longer time horizons, because that's more realistic and healthier. So we're just looking out 6 to 18 months, and I started to post these yesterday, and I realized because my focus is on Jupiter, but also Capricorn, because of its eventual move into Capricorn in 2019, I had skipped over the fact that Jupiter is zooming through Sagittarius on its way to Capricorn. I didn't mean to skip that, because I know a lot of people are waiting for Jupiter to get into Sagittarius for whatever reason. Maybe it's going into a money house or a relationship house, and it's like, wait a minute, you've got to talk about that. So I apologize. I do think, that being said, and we will talk about Jupiter and Sagittarius, it will happen and bring whatever it normally tends to bring: luck, usually, expansion, more people sometimes. The bigger picture is where it's headed in 2019, and it's headed into your 5th house, which actually for Virgo is the most exciting part, I think, unless you're really, really excited to move or sell a place. If real estate is kind of a big issue for you, then you may be excited to have it go into Sagittarius, because that's where you're maybe expanding your home, buying a bigger place, renting a bigger place, maybe taking in roommates. So if you have a child who's a Sagittarius, who could be represented by Jupiter, the child could be staying with you. Like if they're older, maybe they come and stay. But or maybe they're home more. But you will have Jupiter going through this area of the family and home. So it may feel like your family expands in a funny way. So I don't, maybe you're having children, or maybe you're marrying somebody with children, or somehow your family may feel like it expands. Or, if you marry somebody and you're just suddenly in that person's family, you're a part of their family of origin, and their siblings become, your siblings. So that is happening through much of the year. So there are issues to do with home and family. That being said, the larger picture is the movement of Jupiter later in the year toward where Pluto and Saturn are hanging out in your chart. And that is the 5th house. So again, we have the theme of children. So a lot of you could be expanding your families somehow. So children who moved away could move back home. You may be joining families, combining families. There is the theme of the child. With Jupiter, it tends to be lucky, but you will be focusing on children if you have them or want them. If it has nothing to do with children, it still has to do a little bit with family, but it also has to do with love. Jupiter, a lot of people look forward to Jupiter coming to the 5th house because it can herald a time when your love life becomes more active and luckier. You tend to find people to date. You tend to find people you like to date. You may even find somebody you would like to have a long-term relationship with. That can absolutely happen, especially when Jupiter will be interacting with Saturn and Pluto. Because of these heavy weights, there is likely to be a type of partnership between Jupiter and Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto. These are building kinds of energies. I would say, and especially in the fifth house where things are growing and fertile and creative, there's an outward growing sense, not a destroying sense. Capricorn itself is a builder. It builds things step by step. And Pluto, for the most part, has already done its major damage in the area where it is. So a lot of you had some disappointments around love and children and maybe creative projects even. And now it's more of a time of building, especially with Saturn coming into join. Saturn's a builder planet. It can knock things down. It can kind of slap you around if you're not trying to be mature, not following rules, or not observing boundaries. So you do want to be thinking about your own boundaries, especially, there's a suggestion that maybe your home, like people come and go from the home, and what are your boundaries there? Is there a boundary issue with home and family that you need to think about? And in love, you want to be thinking about boundaries as well. So my first suggestion would be try to avoid getting involved with people who are otherwise engaged or married or dating. That boundary issue with Saturn is tricky, very, very tricky. And in Pluto, you want to take care of yourself. And with Jupiter coming through here, there are plenty of fish in the sea, so to speak. And you would do well to look for the people where the boundary is clear, that you have a clear pathway, and somebody's truly available to you is a better way to go at this energy. So as you make changes in the home, decisions around where to move, changes with family, be aware that you're possibly heading toward a big creative project, possibly heading toward a time when you're really going to be focused on a child or children, possibly heading toward a time where you will actually be dating and maybe meeting somebody important. So that's a lot of stuff. So it's a lot to take in, but somehow it's important for you to keep all those variables out on the table so you see all of them together. That they're all important. And I think if you're single, even if you have children, it's important to recognize this is the house of romance, just as much as it's the house of children. So it's like there's some kind of equation that needs to go on, a balancing. And understanding, it's funny, a friend wanted to take me, I'll try to tell the story quickly. A friend wanted to take me to the movie, what's it called? Book Club. And so if you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. But there's Diane Keaton. I just love Diane Keaton. But anyway, she's in this role where she's torn between continuing to be a mom and only thinking about her children's welfare, and the need maybe to go on with her own life and to date. That is such a perfect little microcosm of what is going on possibly for the Virgo who's older and maybe has children. If you're younger, it's not so much about that, obviously, but it is about making sure you're using protection and birth control if you aren't prepared to have children, because as you expand your dating world, you're also expanding your ability to have children. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of taking care of yourself in that particular way. Use protection and use birth control. But overall, very fun. People look forward to Jupiter coming to the 5th house, and that is happening later in the year for you. All right, take care.